Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Blissed? Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
Yeah. It's great to hear your voice, Dr. Shealy. We are trying to get we're trying to get in touch with Sonny Skidmore. And Sonny Skidmore is a lady who owns KLID AM 1340, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And she wanted to chat with you. She is the lady who had her legs amputated above the knee, and she wanted to see what your thoughts were. And so, for some reason, she's been at a convalescing home where she gets skilled care and therapy and things like that. She just wants to know about vitamins, mineral supplements, regimen, autogenic training, whatever your thoughts are. And I've talked to her many times on the telephone, and so we are trying to get in touch with her. Alex just sent me a message that it keeps going to voicemail. So, Alex, no, there is no backup number. That is the only number, the one I gave you. So Alex will let us know when we get Sonny Skidmore. So, Dr. Shealy, what's new in the world of Dr. Shealy?
Well, just day-to-day stuff, nothing special for a change.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that might be nice. I was thinking about these California fires. Some people think that they're arson. Some people think that they're smart meters. Some think that all of the above are the causes, and carelessness and so forth. One of the things that we should probably consider discussing is in the situation where things are going lousy and there's smoke all around, refrigeration is down because the electric company shut off the electricity to millions of people, and so the refrigeration's been down for days, the meat's rotting, people have died, the municipal water system is down because they don't have electricity to run their system either. Sewage treatment plant is not working because they don't have the electricity to run their system. Cell phones are down because the generators have run out of fuel and coverage is spotty, and so forth. So in these conditions where there is a great potential for disease from rotting flesh of animals, sewage, the inability to take a typical shower or a bath because the water's not running, what do you suggest we do, Dr. Shealy?
Well, I suggest they move out of California as soon as possible. California's a stupid state. Its government is the worst in this country as far as I could tell. And so I see no reason, I can't think of a single reason that one would want to live in California.
Well, I have to agree with you based on first-hand experience, because I did try a stint in California. I started a company with a couple of guys when I was about 27. And literally, Mrs. Finelli and I went out there, and we decided that we weren't going to buy a house. First of all, they're crazy in price. It was like 4X. Whatever it is in the East Coast, it's 4 times at least in California, and the crime is out of control. Back in 1980, you had to have locks on the wheels on your car so that people wouldn't steal your wheels overnight. They might leave your car, but they were going to take your wheels. I don't have locks on my wheels on my car here, even, today, almost 40 years later. I still don't have locks on my wheels, and I don't think I need them. Do you feel the same way?
Of course.
Do you have locks on your wheels?
Never even thought about it.
Yeah, well, right, because when I moved to California, I had an old Porsche. I had a 914. It was actually manufactured by like a joint venture with Porsche and Volkswagen. It's a little tiny, very inexpensive Porsche. Nothing luxurious about this thing. And it had the heater on this Porsche was so primitive that it relied on the exhaust to blow fresh air over the exhaust pipes to duct that into the cabin of the car for heat. But I mean, it was really, really primitive, but it got great mileage, and it was called a Porsche 914. Well, I got there with this little thing, and people said to me, first thing is, what kind of locks do you have on what? On your wheels. It was quite silly, and my next exposure was we rented this little shack, and it was 1,100 square feet. I think it was maybe $675 a month to rent a shack. And when I say shack, I mean a shack. It was made out of homosote on the outside. Homosote is the trade name for 3/4 inch thick egg carton material. And I do not exaggerate. Reprocessed, reused cardboard boxes. And literally that's what it was. And the water faucet in the kitchen drip, drip, drip. So I called the landlord, and he sent his guy out. And the guy said, I'll tell you what. If you can wait till the weekend, I can do this for you for only $120. Because I'm here working for the boss now, and you're going to have to pay him more. But if I come back on the weekend, I'll do it on my own time for $120. And what I'm saying is, here's a guy who's working for the boss, and he's trying to cut his boss's throat. That's California. And when I saw that, plus the traffic and the Me First, that was my first exposure to Me First. I decided that was not where I wanted to be. So Mrs. Finelli and I lasted 18 months, and that was it. And we packed our bags and came east. We went too far east, and then we turned around and came back to Missouri. And after we figured out that we went too far east. But so what do we do, Dr. Shealy? Do we in order to get through this, what do we do if our water is suspect? What do we do if our food has defrosted? And we think, geez, I wonder if it's questionable. Is there a way you can eat food that is, just defrosted for too long?
If you've had it in a freezer, it actually defrosts, and you don't cook it within a few hours while it's still cold, I would not touch it. Okay.
What could happen to a person? What kind of malady could happen to a person who eats
food poisoning?
Food?
I mean, it's severe. Okay. Everything from nausea, vomiting, diarrhea to death. I mean, the protein can turn into something really poison when it spoils. It ferments, and it becomes a totally different non-edible poison.
Okay. If someone has food poisoning from that kind of consumption, and they say, you know what, I shouldn't have, after an hour or so, they go, you really shouldn't have done that, and they start vomiting, is there, what do you do at that point? More hydration, less hydration?
Top of the list would be Pepto-Bismol. That's the quickest thing.
Okay.
You should keep Pepto-Bismol or, bismuth salicylate on hand for emergencies like that. Now, the other thing, of course, is you could use a castor oil pack, a cloth soaked in castor oil and a heating pad over the abdomen. That's worth considering. You could have some diatomaceous earth on hand. That may absorb some of the poison. You have to be ready. You don't wait until you're sick to try to treat something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk about it before, so you could have these things on hand. Now, when you said diatomaceous earth, we did a study many years ago with some of the meetup people, and we took a teaspoon of diatomaceous earth. Now, this is food grade class. You cannot use the kind of DE, which is the typical abbreviation for it, diatomaceous earth. It's this white powdery substance of prehistoric shells of animals, if you will, sort of like bone meal, but for prehistoric animals. And it's ground up into like a flour, and you mix it with filtered water, and drink a glass of it. Let's say 1 teaspoon in 8 ounces of water. Stir it up, drink it, and we found some very interesting things. We found that our hair and nails grew better. Interesting. And are there any cautions? I mean, other than breathing it, Dr. Shealy, because you don't want to breathe it, it'll cause silicosis in the lungs.
Well, of course. I mean, and you said you want to be sure it is food grade, of course, and it's very inexpensive. I mean, 2 pounds for $12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a pretty big jar or bottle, plastic bottle of diatomaceous. So, are there any cautions that you would have? Is there a risk of overdosing on DE?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, follow the instructions. Get one that says food grade on it, and don't exceed what the instructions say. I mean, the important thing is don't overdo it.
Mm-hmm. And what those who have tested it at the meetup did was 1 teaspoon thoroughly dissolved in water, and it's like drinking chalk, chalk mixed with water. It has. You're not going to say, "Well, that was great." That's not going to happen. 1 teaspoon mixed with 8 ounces of water, and most people did it once a day. Some people did it, twice a day, and you can do it with meals or between meals, as many did. And I don't know if there was a difference, Dr. Shealy, between meals or with meals. Do you, or does it make any difference?
I don't know of any difference, but I honestly would prefer to take it between meals. I think let it, I don't think you want to mix it with food.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And as far as hair and nail growth, what do you recall your experiences with that?
I recall doing it and noticing it, but that was a few years ago, so the details are not with me anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so class, if you'd like to find out more about diatomaceous earth, you can look it up on the internet, but read several articles before you even pursue any of this. And we're not advocating that you do it or not do it. We're just saying that you can look it up and make that decision for yourself. And that goes for everything that we say here on USA Prepares, because frankly, I would prefer not being sued for someone doing something that doesn't make any sense, like overdoing it. So please be careful, use judgment, and make an informed decision. And you make the decision based on what you think. We're just exposing you to the information. Dr. Shealy, there's a young boy who did something something that some young precocious boys might do. And he was drinking a juice bottle, and he wanted to get the last few drops. So he stuck his tongue inside this wide-mouthed juice bottle, but it was wide enough for him to get his tongue into the bottle, but not wide enough for him to get his tongue out of the bottle. And this was a glass bottle.
Oh, dear.
It probably wasn't that funny when it was happening. But I'd like to talk about a technique that they used by pumping air into the bottle through a hypodermic needle. And have you ever done anything like that? And are there any stories that we need to know? Class, Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. Norm, NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com. So, Dr. Shealy, there was this young boy, and he was drinking this glass bottled juice. And he liked it so much, he stuck his tongue inside the bottle, and he couldn't get it out. So, obviously, there was vacuum that was holding, I don't know how he did it, but maybe the bottle got cool, and he created a partial vacuum, and couldn't get it out. So doctors took first they sedated him gently, and they took a syringe. Now, first thing they did was they took pictures, because I think they thought this was hilarious. And the pictures are on the internet. So they took a hypodermic needle, let's say 20 cc's, hooked it up to a catheter, a small tube, and stuck the catheter between his tongue and the bottle, without slicing up his tongue, pumped air into it, more and more and more pressure, and then he was able to get his tongue out. Have you ever experienced anything as wild as that?
No, but that you would see almost certainly only in an emergency room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there another type of procedure that could have been used, Dr. Shealy?
I don't know of one. That sounds like, I suppose you could have tried injecting oil to make it more slippery, just plain old vegetable oil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Using some kind of lubricant that is edible. But that's what happened. So they literally, and the reason I'm mentioning this is just to let people know that there are alternatives that are outside the box that maybe they should keep in the back of their mind should they ever get in one of these crazy situations. NASA has been putting people into Earth's orbit for years. And NASA has not had a policy on what do you do if somebody dies in space. They have no policy on that. I don't think they really know exactly what they want to do. And there are thoughts. You can say, well, someone's in a capsule, for example, and it's orbiting the Earth, and the guy dies or the team dies. You can just let them continue orbiting until the orbit decays and the device tumbles to Earth and burns up. That's one thing. Another thing is if you put the person who just died into the coldest section of the spacecraft, where it's minus 270 degrees Fahrenheit, that person would freeze dry, literally freeze dry, and turn into all the moisture would be gone, and all you'd have is what's left without moisture. And how much is the body? 90% moisture, Dr. Shealy?
Well, most people say 75 to 80%.
Okay, all right. So you'd be left with 25 to 20% of the mass of the dead person, and then the other option would be if they could cremate the person. But how do you do that? So that's really not a viable option. And then the next option would be just jettison that person and just send him out and let him become the petri dish for starting new life wherever he may land. What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about that? It's such a strange thing that NASA has never really come up with a definitive solution to someone dying in space. Any thoughts on that?
Well, to me, as you may know, I don't. Once I'm dead, I want my body cremated. I don't want to be bothered with anything else. So to me, they could just put it out into space and leave. It wouldn't matter to me. It was my body, but other people have different thoughts about that.
Are you sure you want to be cremated, Dr. Shealy?
I am positive ever since I was a child.
Okay. Because I have a friend, his name is Roger, he's one of our instructors, and he said dying's bad enough, but being cremated.
And
he's in India, too.
It. I don't see any point in polluting the earth with the leftover.
All right, we'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. Dr. Shealy, I've been reading about a disease known as Batten disease, Batten disease. And there's a story about this terminally ill boy who was diagnosed with dementia at just 6 years old. And at first, he would fall down a lot. And as time progressed, he is like a baby in a 6-year-old's body. He can no longer recognize his mother. And this is a disease that slowly robs children of their ability to walk, talk, think, and then, of course, the worst one is breathe. And so this young 6-year-old has already lost his mobility and speech and is fed through a tube because I believe that he's unable to perform the typical swallowing tasks. Have you ever experienced anything or patients with Batten disease, Dr. Shealy?
I have not.
So this is like Alzheimer's for the very young. And it seems like it's so cruel. And there's no fix. And I'm wondering, it appears that these things seem to happen in Europe, specifically England, more than other countries. Is there something that's going on in Europe that's not quite going on here yet that you can put your finger on, Dr. Shealy?
Not that we know of. Now, the biggest change in Europe, of course, in the last decade is the great, huge number of migrants, especially from the religion that wants to kill everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Batten disease is they say it's a rare genetically inherited disease, and they say it's caused by waste buildup in the cells, which creates a neurodegenerative effects, including blindness, seizures, personality changes, dementia, loss of motor skills and the ability to walk, talk, and communicate. And because it's so rare, it's not easily identified early. There's no real test for it at birth to see if the child has it. And it's estimated that there are about 14,000 children worldwide diagnosed with this particular disorder. And let's see, there are between 100 and 150 affected individuals currently living with Batten disease in the UK. Very, very sad. So I just wanted to see if there was something that we could think of.
If I had access to such a patient, I would certainly try the cranial gamma PIMP device. And the reason I mention that is just 2 weeks ago, a woman brought her husband back to see me. I'd seen him 1 month earlier with very advanced Parkinson's disease. He was so bad that it took 2 people to get him out of his wheelchair. He couldn't, even with 2 people holding him, he couldn't stand. And 1 month later, he walked into the clinic on his own, just from using the cranial PEMF device. So, in any kind of thing, as early as possible, I would like to see what would happen by reorienting the brain to the gamma frequency.
Do you, would you like me to send you a link to this particular article, and maybe you could contact the editor and they can, or if you'd like, I'll do it and see if they're interested in contacting you. Would you like me to do that?
Why not? Yes, please.
Okay. All right. It's really sad because there's a 46-year-old mother, and she literally says she's now, it's like looking after a 6-year-old in a baby's body. And it's really sad. I mean, you can tell by the stare, the open mouth, that this child is just there, not productive by any stretch of the imagination, just there. And I've seen Alzheimer's, and it's truly devastating. So if someone has Alzheimer's, Dr. Shealy, are you suggesting that they consider the cranial gamma PEMF device? Okay. How would you like them to?
It's safe. The only contraindication is a pacemaker.
Okay. How would you like those who are paying attention to this broadcast to contact you?
Well, my email will be fine, Norm@normshealy.com.
Okay. Class that. So NORMSHE, norm at normshealy.com. NORMSHEALY.com. Norm at normshealy.com. So that's the preferred method. You can do that. And
Yeah.
I'd suggest that you be brief with your email. I suggest that you include your telephone number, the state you're calling from or would be calling from if you called. And that way Dr. Shealy will know the time zone and, a few of the particulars, but you don't have to write a book, just very brief. That's what I would recommend. Because when I get emails, frankly, if they are lengthy, I don't read them. If they're to the point, I do. But, and I'm sure most people are like that as well. Okay. Dr. Shealy, there's a thought about breast milk. So we all agree that breast milk is a great way to go. Mama cows provide breast milk for their calves, and colostrum gives them a way to overcome the challenges to their immune system at birth, and if they don't get it, they die. Well, a lot of mothers think breast milk is the way to go. I do as well. I'm sure you do. But what about people sharing breast milk? One mother doesn't have enough, and another mother wants it. What are the concerns about sharing breast milk? Dr. Shealy, drugs, alcohol, infections, diseases. What are your thoughts?
Well, the biggest thing is cleanliness and bacteria. The baby is accustomed to the bacteria of its own mother, but not necessarily to those on the skin of another woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, health habits influence it tremendously as well.
Yeah, and the health habits, or unhealth habits, drugs. Would you be concerned about that? Because I don't know if there's a test for the breast milk itself that's used commonly for drugs, alcohol, infections, cancers, diseases. What would you want to know about if you were going to use someone else's breast milk, or would you just say, no, I'm not going to do it?
Well, personally, I have to admit that if it was my situation and my wife could not produce breast milk, I'd just go to cow's milk or goat's milk, preferably.
Mm-hmm. That's what my parents put me on. I got both goat's milk and mom's milk. Is there any problem with supplementing with goat's milk?
No, far less than with cow's milk.
And the interesting thing about that, Dr. Shealy, is since the 1950s, I haven't heard one person other than you just now mention goat's milk. I don't remember hearing anybody say that as a supplement.
Well, you know that my wife and I had up to 200 goats when we lived in Wisconsin.
Uh-huh.
we raised goats, not for milk, but for meat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to know a lot about goats.
Okay. Well, I'm sure my pediatrician recommended that to my mom, and I remember hearing goat's milk. And okay, is there a benefit for the rest of us who have passed childhood to eat feta cheese? Is there a specific?
Yes.
Okay.
Interestingly, it is far better tolerated by the body and the intestines than cow's milk. I mean, I don't know why it hasn't been more commercial than it is.
There was a guy that I talked to many, many years ago, and I don't remember his name. This was before radio days, but I remember what he said. Oh, actually, I do remember his name. His name is Christopher. His father was Dr. Christopher. And he said, why would you drink milk from a 1,000-pound animal when the weight of that animal is so much larger, heavier than the weight of, let's say, a goat, which is closer to the weight of a human? Is there any justification for the weight, the size of the mother's milk versus the human?
Well, that's an interesting aspect of it. We certainly know that goat milk has a fat content that is much better, much more similar to human milk. And it just is, it reduces inflammation, it optimizes digestion, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's highly superior.
Okay. Well, in that line of thinking, class, I have, probably a year ago, I started taking colostrum, cows' first milk for their calves. And Stephen Hewer of Synergistic Nutrition suggested it. And I have to tell you, I think it made a difference in me. I think it helped me improve my lung capacity and just get better. I mean, that's one of the things that I tried, as well as Dr. Shealy's supplements and the Myers cocktails. So those are the things that I was working on. What are your thoughts about colostrum, Dr. Shealy?
Well, I take a teaspoon every day. The powder, yeah.
Do you mix it with water, warm water?
Yeah. No, I just mix it in part of my morning slush.
Okay. And where do you obtain that? Is that obtainable from you?
NOW, now products. Yes, we actually carry it on our website.
Okay. And is it just called colostrum?
Mm-hmm. That's what it's called.
Okay. So, class, if you want to order that, you can go to normshealy.com, go to the products tab, and you may order it. And I have to tell you that I believe it works. I really do. And Dr. Shealy, I don't think I've really shared this very much, but my pulmonologists are stunned that I'm actually getting better. I think they thought I was going to go the other way and get worse and worse and worse and just up and die. And they're stunned that I'm literally recovering from a lung disease. And I think that, well, is it unusual to recover from a lung disease, Dr. Shealy? I know it takes a long time.
It depends on the disease. Some, chronic fibrosis and things like that, people generally don't recover from.
Class, Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. And Dr. Shealy, some of the concerns that have appeared from doctors as a result of sharing breast milk would be passing on viruses such as HIV, syphilis, hepatitis B, to the baby consuming breast milk from another mother. What are your thoughts about that? Is that possible?
Well, of course. I mean, that's part of the broad thing when I talked about the bacteria or microorganisms of one person, the mother versus the other. I mean, it includes every possible thought about latent infectious diseases.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then what about blood? There have been many times in my life where a doctor has said, okay, if you need blood, will you accept the blood of another? If you're, with my parents, when they've been hospitalized over the years, would you accept, transfusion from another person? What are your thoughts about transfusions?
Well, obviously the same thing. I mean, they check as carefully as they can, but they don't necessarily rule out certain viruses when they give you blood from somebody else. But in the operating room, you may not have a choice. And one of the reasons, I've made a decision at this point in life. I don't want any more surgery. I don't care if I live another 100 years. I don't want any more surgery. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's really tough on the body and it's tough on the mind. It's tough all the way around, and many times it's irreversible. Like some of the stomach surgeries that where they cut out part of your stomach or your intestines so you can get a little thinner instead of just shutting your mouth and eating less. No, just cut it out. Yeah. And, class, there's another thing that you probably ought to consider with surgery is they may cut the wrong part off. I mean...
Yes, that happens. Legs and other parts of the body, definitely.
That's what I mean. I've been with a patient who was preparing for a leg surgery, and they take a ballpoint pen or a magic marker or a Sharpie, and they write, the equivalent of operate on this leg, this one, not the other one, this one. Have you heard of stories where they can't read and they get the wrong one?
Well, of course, once they, whoever is sterilizing the leg with iodine or whatever they use to prep the leg, but could wash that right off. So the surgeon may not see it.
Very, very good point. Okay. There was an actress, and she seemed to get these mysterious infections. She had mood swings. Her hair thinned. And she decided that it could have something to do with some breast implants that she decided to opt in for about 3 years ago. So she wanted to go from small to,
generous.
I don't know, generous, huge. Yeah, the kind you need back supports just to stand up straight for. So this gal decided to have them removed. And when she had them removed, she almost immediately stopped getting the constant yeast and urinary tract infections, the mood swings. Of course, these bags made her disproportionately top-heavy. So the infections went away. Everything got better. The white film on her tongue disappeared. The urinary tract infection stopped. Her foggy memory stopped. Thinning hair stopped. She got better. Actually, became normal. And so she was holding these things up on this image I see of her, and they're huge, absolutely huge. I mean, I can't understand why a doctor would say, well, let's see, these will almost fit, so let's go 3 sizes larger than them. And that's what they did. And these are little rounded bags of liquid and silicone. And they cause these problems, reoccurring problems. Have you experienced anything like that where you've said, you know what, let's have them cut out?
Oh, yes. I saw 75 patients with severe autoimmune diseases.
And the fix is to remove them.
Well, yeah.
Okay. We're going into the top of the hour break, Dr. Shealy, and we can talk more about this, but we can also talk about this mindset of the current generation, and it might be called the renting generation. You don't need to buy it. You can rent it. And I'm talking about everything: jewelry, clothing, furniture. This is it's foreign to me, and maybe you can shed some light on hour number 2 of USA Prepares with Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor. Dr. Shealy, before the broadcast started, a little over an hour ago, hour and 7 minutes ago, I was talking with Alex, our engineer, and I asked him if he had any medical questions for you, and he said that he was interested in knowing about anxiety, and it seems that he experiences anxiety lots of times. I mean, not just before USA Prepares starts every Monday through Friday morning. He experiences anxiety often. And he said it's like butterflies in the stomach. And so we were talking about it. And it can be, the equivalent of before an exam. It can be, where he has to perform under stress. And he has an extremely stressful job because he has to live by the unforgiving second hand of the clock. He has to, he sits at a control board with computers, and commercials have to run on schedule. He has to take calls. He has to talk to the people, make sure that they actually have the right number. He has to make sure that the instructors are called in and in the right line, that I'm here. Otherwise, he has to go to a replay at a moment's notice. So there's like a hair trigger that he lives by when he's at work at Genesis Communications Network. And other engineers at other radio networks and stations have the same kinds of pressures. But so the question is there something that he can do? He's not wussing out. He's not saying, woe is me. He's just saying this is the way it is. Is there something that he can do to alleviate or minimize some of the experiences?
Well, if he were willing to practice even my brief autogenic training twice a day, it would markedly reduce his stress reaction. And I would be, of course, most delighted to send him a copy of it if you or he could send me his email.
Okay, so Alex, here's what you do. Would you send Dr. Shealy an email and let him know that you are Alex of USA Prepares, and Dr. Shealy will email you his autogenic training protocol and an MP3, and try that. And then I'd love to hear back from you, a few weeks, how it worked. And I've got to tell you, Dr. Shealy, I mentioned to Alex that when I first started broadcasting, my knees would knock, and I would say, that I would put foam rubber between my knees so you wouldn't hear them knocking. But, and Alex asked me what it's like now. And I said, I'm absolutely positively over it and have been for years. And it's no big deal being under the pressure of broadcasting. It's, it used to be terrifying if an instructor who I had prepared for, several hours the previous, day, week or so, didn't show up. What was I going to do? Because that instructor was the expert. Now it's not a big deal. I'm good to go, and I can just do 2 hours of monologue, whereas before it would be quite stressful, and I'd be extremely anxious, which you saw when we were in the radio station together. You would be the hour before me, and you'd be getting up out of your studio seat, and I'd be getting into it, and you saw that I was as nervous as could be, and you helped me with Bliss, Dr. Shealy. Do you want to share that?
Well, yes, of course. Now, that's the other thing. Air Bliss applied to the ring of air can have an immediate effect of doing the same thing. Interestingly, if Alex were interested in trying my new universal bliss, I'm on my fourth try to find a universal mixture of oils, and I would like to see if he applied that to the ring of air. I could send him a bottle to see if it would do the same thing for him. It's quicker. It only takes 30 seconds once you learn the points.
So, Alex, I know you're listening, and
send me his address too.
Yeah, yeah. I will do that. Alex can send me his email address in the Comrex stack, and I will pass that on to Dr. Shealy. Dr. Shealy will send you a vial of Universal Bliss, and I have used all the blisses, as has Mrs. Finelli, and they work. They absolutely work. So let's see if the Universal, instead of the all the different blisses, but let's see if the Universal Bliss works. And I will be monitoring Alex's use of it, and I'll coach him a little bit on as necessary, if necessary, how to do it and how I reacted to it. And I'll be glad to help him that way. And I think it's a wonderful offer from Dr. Shealy. And so, Alex, you can let us know. And here's one way you can let us know, Alex. And he's probably terrified about what I'm going to say. So here it is. So after you've tried Universal Bliss, Alex, you can come on the air, which you have resisted doing for as long as I've known you.
After he gets himself blessed, he'll do it easily.
That's what I mean. Yes. And won't that be nice, Alex, if that is the case? Okay? And you can let us know. You can let us know by coming on the air and saying, yeah, it absolutely did it. It worked. Or you can let us know by saying, I don't want to go on the air. How about that? So, Alex, I'll need your email address, okay? You can type it in the stack. All right. Dr. Shealy, diabetes, type 2. There's a deluge of type 2 diabetics appearing in emergency rooms. They don't know what happened, and the cost of treating patients has doubled in 10 years. And there are hundreds, actually about 5,000 diabetics entering the hospital system in Europe, well, in Great Britain. Maybe it ought to be called Little Britain now, per day. 5,000 a day showing up at the hospitals. That's an enormous number. And what they're saying is it's got to do with their lifestyle, their lack of paying attention to what's going on, just going to the supermarket and eating the
junk.
Yeah.
Well, actually, interestingly, Vince, part of it is also the irresponsibility of the medical profession. In other words, if physicians had checked them for pre-diabetes on every routine exam, they might have caught it before it became so severe. I see in my office, conservatively, 20% of people who walk in the door have pre-diabetes, but it hasn't been diagnosed by their own physician because they don't do a hemoglobin A1C. To me, that's one of the greatest lacks in modern medicine is not checking for pre-diabetes on every visit.
Okay. So when you say every visit, so do you mean the annual checkup, Dr. Shealy?
Well, yeah, or in between, if not, if they're coming in for regular treatment of something else, it needs to be checked every month even, because I was taught 65 years ago that prediabetes could begin to cause trouble in the legs with diabetic neuropathy 10 years before frank diabetes. And the only way to diagnose it is a hemoglobin A1C.
Dr. Shealy, is that a test that can be performed at any lab test now or its equivalent?
Absolutely. I strongly recommend every human being by age 40 get a hemoglobin A1C, and if they don't have it and they have no other problems, maybe every 5 years, just to be sure.
Okay, so if a person has prediabetes as represented by the outcome of that hemoglobin A1C test, now what? What does that person do?
Then they begin on one of three herbs, Gymnema sylvestre, fenugreek, or berberine, and I can turn it around before it becomes frank diabetes.
Okay, I'm looking at some images of some fat people. And I mean, it's easy.
If they're 15 or 20 pounds overweight, it's even more essential to do a hemoglobin A1C.
Okay, so if you were to go to Walmart, Dr. Shealy, right after the broadcast, if you just happened to be in a Walmart and you looked around, what percentage of those people would you say are either diabetic or have prediabetes? Because they're huge.
Well, I would say probably 40% or more.
I would have to agree. I think that might be conservative. If you equate fat, overweight, with prediabetes or diabetes, I would.
Well, then
you'd
have to say 70%.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Can you be, Dr. Shealy? Can you be fat? And I'm using that word deliberately, and not have diabetes. Is it possible?
Oh yes, of course.
Okay.
But you are likely to have prediabetes, and as I said, it could go on for up to 10 years. But if you wait until it becomes frank diabetes, it's much more difficult to turn it around.
All right. And so if you diagnose a patient right now with prediabetes, diabetes, what would you say?
Well, at the top of my list, of course, would be avoid potatoes, rice, wheat, junk food of all kinds, sugar, and get your act together before you die of complications of diabetes.
Okay, potatoes, rice, wheat. That means no bread, no pasta. That means no cookies. That means no cereal.
You got it.
That means you can have salad, tomatoes, carrots.
Moringa.
Okay, so what do we eat? What are those foods?
Well, 80% of your food, ideally, should be fruits and mostly vegetables and fruits. 80%. 20%.
Well, I can tell you for sure that if you go to any restaurant and you were to weigh what they sell or have sold, it will not be 80% fruits and vegetables. Absolutely not.
Doubt that it's 20%.
Right. And at McDonald's, it might be 1%.
Well,
somebody might have ordered the wrong thing, and that's where the 1% would come from.
McDonald's is the original stupid junk food.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense because their CEO just got fired, making over $10 million a year because he was having an affair with a younger woman. It's against policy at McDonald's, and he didn't care, I guess, enough to not do that, and he just lost his job. So if that's the way he behaves with his own life, why would he worry about what you eat, right? Why would he? Okay. We'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy. We're talking about diabetes, and let's do a little bit more about, we know not to eat potatoes, rice, and wheat, but let's go into exactly what the most beneficial foods are for that person who has been diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. So, Dr. Shealy, we want to avoid eating potatoes, rice, and wheat. What is on the you must eat starting now list that you recommend for us? I'm going to write this down.
Well, obviously, all what I call veggie vegetables, that is, any non-starchy vegetable, is at the top of the list. To a greater or lesser extent, all fruits except plums, cranberries, and rhubarb. Those are, 80% of your food intake should be from the veggie vegetables and the fruits other than those three.
That was cranberries, rhubarb, and what was the other one?
Plums and rhubarb. They are acid-producing instead of alkaline-producing.
Okay. So peaches, pears, bananas, kiwi, all good?
Oh, yeah. Oranges, tangerines, everything.
Apples?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So all fruits except cranberries, rhubarb, and plums because they're acid producing. And what else should we eat?
Well, then, of course, real meat of all kinds, and that's and eggs and dairy. And what you leave out is essentially virtually all of the grains.
Leave out all grains, okay. And would that be chia as well?
Chia? No, I don't. I consider that a natural.
Nut?
Chia seeds are good.
Okay. All right. What about spices? Are there any spices that someone who has prediabetes or diabetes should not consume?
I can't think of any that you shouldn't. All the spices are good. Of course, cinnamon's the top of the list.
Okay.
And cloves and even nutmeg.
Cinnamon and cloves and nutmeg. Turmeric, curcumin?
Oh, heavens, of course, yes.
Okay. Okay, I wrote that down. Okay, class, I hope that you had a chance to write that down. If you didn't, please visit the archives at GCN or Republic Broadcasting or the Ron Gibson channel on YouTube. and you can replay the broadcast. Okay, and we didn't talk about sugar, but we always do.
Well, sugar is
sugar,
a non-food.
No sugar, no sugar, right?
Sugar is the original artificial food. It's junk.
And it's in almost everything. It's in salad dressing. It's in soup. It's, of course, in most candy, if not all candy. And how bad is sugar? Can we have it once in a while, once a day, once a week, once a month? Never?
It's stupid to think you can get by with any, because it's addicting.
Okay. How about in chocolate?
Well, if you're going to eat chocolate, now be sure that you don't have anything better than a minimum 70% dark.
Minimum greater than 70% dark. Okay.
And not more than an ounce a day.
Do you have a brand if you were to... Okay, 1 ounce per day. And what is it the sugar that's your concern, or is it something else in the chocolate?
No, it's the sugar. And Ascanosis, of course, is an excellent one.
Okay, so M&Ms are out, right?
They are the original sugar junkie. Non-food.
Okay. Generation rent. Dr. Shealy, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on this. This is just mind-boggling. So right now, there's a study to figure out what people rent. Those who rent, 45% is for furniture. 37% is for game consoles. Some people rent clothing. Now, I can almost understand renting a tuxedo for a formal event, but it costs less to buy the tuxedo than it costs to rent it. I know this for a fact. Tools, jewelry, computers. Class Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, and I was just talking with Alex during the break. He's our engineer on Mondays. And he was unable to hear what we were saying about the autogenic training. And so I have his email, Dr. Shealy, and I mentioned the Universal Bliss, and he's delighted to try it. And I said, Alex, he wet his pants. He's in the men's room right now cleaning up. So I told him that he's going to be coming on the air, and he goes, oh. So I said, no, it's going to fix it. And I said, just listen. I'm going to tell you some of the stories. So Dr. Shealy, we had a young child who was, I'd say she had ants in her pants, and teachers had a problem with her, and she was just really anxious. And so her grandmother called and said that she had this condition, and I said, well, why don't you come to the meetup? This was many years ago. What we'll do is you can try Bliss, just try mine. And so she sat in the booth opposite me, and I said, well, and I put it on the table at the restaurant booth, and she looked at it, and she smelled it. She said, it smells nice. And I said, yeah, I want to try it. And I asked her grandmother if that was okay, and they said yes. And it calmed her right down. They couldn't believe it. They wanted to go out and buy it right then and there. And then other times during the meetup, some people said, oh, no, I can't. It's impossible. It doesn't work. No way. And so one of our biggest skeptics said, no way. I said, I'll tell you what. He was in the center of the restaurant. Everybody could see him. I said, I'll tell you what. Let's just put it on these two spots. And then I'm going to ask you not to smile. Don't smile. So he put it on. I waited about, 30 seconds to a minute later, and I said, don't smile. And he couldn't stop smiling from ear to ear. And this is a guy who was absolutely serious all the time. I've seen him for, meetup after meetup for years. And so his name is Alan. Alan, he was on Doomsday Preppers with the aquaponics. So that's the guy. So it absolutely has an impact. And no one, I've never seen anyone try it when I said, okay, now whatever you do, don't smile. They can't stop smiling. Dr. Shealy, what is your feeling about success with air bliss and relaxation? Have you ever seen it not work?
Oh, yeah. It works well in 80% of people. Let's face it, roughly 20% of people who are agitated and anxious, etc., are so severe that they need a very intense workout. I mean, nothing that works for most people will work in 20% of them. It requires full-time.
Okay, I've never seen... Yeah, I've never seen anyone who is, that severe that I've challenged. But those who just seemed, nervous, it fixed them up right in front of me. I mean, within a minute or two, maybe less than that, maybe a half a minute. But okay.
Well, within 30 minutes, your oxytocin increased quite significantly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, what you saw with me, would you say it worked?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that the results that you expected?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Eating before bedtime, Dr. Shealy, what are your thoughts about? I mean, so many people say, oh, I just want to have a, before bedtime snack. Slam something down, then lie down and go to bed. What are your thoughts about that?
Bad. You should not eat within a minimum of an hour, preferably 2 hours before you go to bed.
Okay, and why is that? Medically, why is that, Dr. Shealy?
Well, numerous reasons, but a great deal of your entire metabolic system is involved in digesting, breaking down those foods and getting them into the right particles to take into your body. So it preoccupies, if you will, your metabolism with digesting food instead of relaxing and going to sleep.
I remember the story of the king, and this was probably, I don't know if it was 1200s, 1300s, or 1400s, or maybe even the 1500s, but the story was that this king sent for two common people to come to the castle. And this is in Europe. And they were invited to a feast, just a tremendous feast, something that these commoners would never have experienced in their lives. And they thought that was pretty interesting. So they went to the castle, and they gorged themselves, and they had this wonderful feast. And then right after the feast, the king said to one of them, I want you to run around the castle. Okay, run, and then come back. The other one, he told to take a nap and sleep. And he did. And then what he did was he killed them both, and he dissected them to see what worked better for digestion. Exercise right after, a heavy meal, or rest. And I don't know what the answer was, but do you have a feel for what the answer is?
No. I have to think about it.
But he wanted to know. And he wanted to know, and he wanted to kill. He was willing to kill people to figure it out. And so as I go through life, one of the things I think about when I think about the government corporations is that king, and what he would do, because he wanted to know, or he was in charge, or he wanted to conquer a territory, or whatever he wanted to do, he would do it because he was the boss. And there would be some calculations on how many people would die. Maybe not enough would die. Maybe too many would die. But I go through life thinking lately and I look at governments as the kings, and what would they do, and would they care? And I keep thinking they would not care. They're not coming to help us. They don't care about us. Unless we're fixing the roads that are right around the castle, or unless we're servicing their airplane that they need, or unless we're making the fuel that they need for their airplane or their cars, or unless we are right there and we're indispensable, we're allowed to survive. Otherwise, all bets are off. Well, I was just wondering about that. And so chemicals used in plastic soap, cosmetics, cleaning products are now being linked to what you and we've been talking about for years, lower IQs. Lower IQs. Hormones are being disrupted by these chemicals. And now, well, we know that people are getting dumber by the second, but we know that it's now a result, or partially as a result, of exposure to these chemicals in plastic, soap, cosmetics, and cleaning products. Dr. Shealy, your thoughts, comments?
Well, you have to be careful of anything that's been out in the real world. I mean, once it's been exposed to a marketer, unless you buy it directly from a farmer whom you know personally and know is not using junk or poisons, you can't tell. That's one of the reasons there's no circumstance in which I would pay 2% extra for something called organic at a grocery store. I don't trust it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, Dr. Shealy, we stopped buying meat. We consume only the animals raised on our farm because I don't know about where the other meat comes from. And there's a class of cow called slaughter cow. Now, these are cows that are blind. They may have some cancers on them. And they are at the end of the line. They are, they're days away from passing away. And so farmers will bring those cows, called slaughter cows, and they will bring about 50 cents a pound. Yeah, $0.50. We'll make sure the class understands. $0.50 per pound. So how much do you pay, class, for your least expensive cuts of meat? Let's say ground beef. Okay, that would contain the fat from the animals, and the fat, Dr. Shealy, doesn't the fat contain most of the toxins in the animal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, I eat only beefalo raised on my own farm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Shealy, why is it that you raise beefalo? I mean, what are the benefits? I've tasted your beefalo meat; it's extraordinary.
Well,
on our farm we raise.
It's leaner, and it has a higher concentrate of omega-3 fatty acids.
Okay.
And these animals are infinitely more gentle than regular cows. There's something about the crossbreeding of a buffalo with a cow that gets rid of the toughness of the buffalo. And so these cows are friendlier than regular cows. I mean, I've been around cows all my life. I was raised on a farm, And beefalo are by far the gentlest, friendliest cows. But, regular cows are pretty gentle, too.
We raise Black Angus here at our farm. And I can't really say why. That's what we started with, in the late 1980s. We started with black cows, and that's what they call them here, black cows. But we have Black Angus, and for us they're very, very gentle. But that's because of how we treat them.
Exactly. That's the other aspect. Now, my father raised a cross between Hereford and Angus.
Uh-huh.
He liked this. He felt that the Hereford bull produced cows that were too big, calves, and so beating a Hereford cow with an Angus bull gave a somewhat smaller, more compact animal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like cows that don't have really long legs because they're less likely to break their legs. We don't like these great big cows that are 12, 13, 1,400. We like them, around 800, 900 maybe. And sometimes we will cross a Black Angus with a Gelbvieh bull, and we like them as well. And so they're still black. Every once in a while, we'll have a Red Angus pop out, and but we really like, for us, the black cows. But I think, well, after the broadcast, I'm going to talk to our son about beefalo and see if he would like to try raising beefalo. So do you have just a mixture of cows and a buffalo, or do you how do you arrive at that? Did you breed them yourself?
It has to be 37.5% buffalo to be called a beefalo. Mm-hmm. Actually, there's a breed registered for them.
Okay, and so you can buy beefalo and raise beefalo.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy after these few short commercial announcements. Dr. Shealy, Alex has returned from the bathroom. He's all cleaned up. And he's going to pot up his microphone. Alex, did you have something that you wanted to say to Dr. Shealy?
Hey, Dr. Shealy, can you hear me?
I can, Alex. Thanks.
I just wanted to say that your offer is very, very kind, and I will be happy to accept.
Wonderful. Well, as soon as I just talked to my staff, and I'll have the bottle ready to ship to you by Thursday.
Dang, well, I can't tell you how grateful I am.
And as soon as I get your email, I'll go ahead and send you the brief photogenic training, which can help in the meantime, too.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alex. Blessings.
Dr. Shealy, I've got to tell you, that's the first time that Alex has done that. He did not want to come on the air. And then during the break, he said, that was very kind of Dr. Shealy. And I said, yeah, it really was. And I said, he's the guy. He is the guy. He is the guy that made this. And this is a really neat offer. And he realized that. And that's why he got up all the courage he could find and came on the air. And he's never done that before.
I'm proud of him.
Well, yeah, and I told him that we're gonna hear from him, and in a couple of weeks, and he'll be coming back on the air. And I mentioned to him, Dr. Shealy, that I said, this is going to change your life because you will have the courage to do things that you might not have had prior to that. Do you think that was an embellishment, Dr. Shealy, or do you think that what I said is true?
I think that was a realistic projection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that, and thank you for making that offer. So, Dr. Shealy, the problem as it's being reported in the worldwide news is that these chemicals that are in the linings of cans of food, bisphenol A, also known as BPA, it's found in plastic food and drink containers. And it makes plastics more flexible and harder to break. It has been linked to low sperm counts and infertility as men, as well as breast and prostate cancer. It's banned in Europe, in use in baby bottles in baby bottles. This is pretty serious stuff. And what do you see as a result of what's the rollout? So 10 years looking back to today, what are we going to say?
Well, I think we'll say the government is stupid and evil in every conceivable way that we know.
For allowing this.
I think every elected official should be put out of office after their first term. Never allowed back in Congress, especially after they've had one term.
Oh, absolutely agreed. Absolutely. And what they figure out is the compensation that they receive as a Congress critter or a senator is nothing compared to the gifts that they get by inserting themselves between two parties or multiple parties trying to run commerce, and getting government contracts is just a great way to enrich themselves. You look at Barry Soetoro, Barack. Now, those guys are multi-millionaires after leaving the White House. They weren't very well off. Now they have $1 million mansions. They're living high on the hog. And the thing that I can't believe is anybody would want to go see them or read their book. Can you imagine that? Who'd want to read that crap?
The worst president in history, ever. No question about that. Obama is by far the worst ever.
If you look at healthcare, Obamacare is what it's been called. Ever since he messed up, really messed up. Well, it was messed up before, but nothing like it is now. Now, every single year, if you're on Medicare, you've got to get on top of it, study it, and it can take days and days and days just to figure out what in the heck has changed and how it affects you, and if you're on any prescriptions, what the cost delta is going to be. And it's unacceptable. There used to be a time, and this is before your book, Third Party Rape. You used to be able to go to your doctor. It was $7 for a visit. Doctors used to make house calls. Now, if you can find a doctor, praise the Lord, that's amazing in itself, finding a doctor who will accept you. But then having an appointment and having the same doctor and having your medical care or your medical coverage, I'm not saying medical care, but having that stay constant. It's impossible now. He's destroyed, almost single-handedly, has almost destroyed the medical system. Did I embellish that, Dr. Shealy?
No, you understated it.
Yeah, class, if you have Medicare, you're in open enrollment right now. Go find a professional. It won't cost you anything. You need to understand what's going to happen to you, because if you make a mistake, you can lose everything. You can lose the farm. You can lose the house. You can go bankrupt from medical care. You need to get on top of it right now. Call someone like Peggy Gawley, one of our instructors, or her equivalent in your area. Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for being with us.
Have a good one.
You too.